Please start it. I'm ready to do this.
I started it. It's ready.
All right. The stream is running. Hey, everybody. It's Dale Jr. at the Dale Jr. Download. This is the live portion of the show. Live TV, Mike.
Man,
get on your toes, buddy.
Yeah, pressure's on. I hope I got some good questions.
This is the Ask Junior presented by Xfinity. Xfinity is a proud premier partner of NASCAR. It's hard to say. It's a lot of P's.
Yeah.
We've had a great show today. Greg Eyes was in here. Incredible story. I mean, you wouldn't believe what this guy did to get his opportunity in NASCAR. And I say it a bunch, and I think 4 or 5 times on this particular podcast, I get asked all the time, how do I get into racing? How do I get into racing? You're going to hear how to get into racing through the words of Greg Ives telling his story. There's no easy way. There's no easy route. Somebody might get lucky every once in a while, but there's a ton of sacrifice. And usually it's hard for me to give the person the answer because I don't think they're going to like it. But Greg Ives is going to tell you. So anyways, you guys presented your questions to @Xfinity Racing on Twitter. And I follow my timeline and see some of the stuff you guys got on the top of your mind, and I'm looking forward to these questions today. So Leah's got them teed up. So let's get started.
Our first question coming from Michael Krauss. How did your ride-along go last week with Brandon? Did you get above 120 miles an hour?
Sure, yeah, we did. I borrowed a car from Hendrick Motorsports. Hendrick has a 2-seater, and it's really well done, and it's basically ready to rock and ready to go fast, and you can push this thing pretty hard. So we ran. I don't want to give away too much because those guys are going to take that film and content and create their own content with it for the I guess the I Am Athlete podcast. So I don't want to tell you everything that happened. It was a lot of fun, and everybody got in on the act, and I think that they came away with a new appreciation for what it's like inside the car. So I'm looking forward to seeing the footage, right? Because they were pretty entertaining.
Our next question coming from Jamerson. What are your thoughts on Brad Keselowski tying your record of 6 wins at Talladega?
I text Brad after the race. I said, you can tie my victories at Talladega, and you can even beat them by going and winning next year, but do not tie or beat my dad's 10 victories. Right now, not too much of a threat, but Brad's got some years left, so he could definitely get up there and get within reach of Dad. But I want Dad any of his records to stand. So I'm always pulling for that.
Matthew Cobb asked, if you could improve Speedway Racing, how would you do it, and what era do you point at and say that was the best on-track product we had?
My gosh. I loved it all. That's the problem. So for me, like, I pick any race at Talladega, and I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to watch it in all, whether it's from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, when I raced in the thousands. All of it's, I can be entertained by any of those. What I'm not entertained by is the aesthetics of the spoiler. I don't like it. It's giant, ugly, and seems frankly unnecessary. And, the plates that we've ran over the years, didn't care. Don't know. Put whatever plate. I don't see it. So it doesn't bother me. I just don't like the look of that spoiler on our cars. I think our cars shouldn't have big, giant spoilers hanging on them like that. Things is this. I don't know. I can't say enough how ridiculous I think it is. Just looking at it, right? I'm not even talking about how it makes the cars behave. But in a general sense, I understand why they put the spoiler on the car. I know, they're trying to create drag and closing rate and passing and all the things. I wish that we could find a way. I don't know if it's even possible, but I wish that we could find a way to do this firewall forward, working at the nose of the car, somehow to create that drag, create that vulnerability for that lead car to where he is easy to pass, and he has to be smart to figure out how to keep the lead. And then we wouldn't need the big spoiler that all the guys are trying to look through, and the guy looking through the mirror can't see what's going on at the back of his race car and all that. So I imagine, those things get dirty and just trying to see through multiple, if you're pushing somebody, you used to not be able to see. When we did tandem, you didn't see nothing. You were looking at the back of a race car. You couldn't see around that car. You're pushing him as hard as you can go, and you don't know whether you're driving him right up into a crash or into the back of somebody, or whether the track, whether they're 3 or 4 wide and he has nowhere to go. You can't see it. I imagine it's maybe similar, even though those spoilers are Lexan. I imagine the vision isn't really ideal, and maybe that's why we see sort of that deal we saw with Logano on the back straightaway, where a guy's pushing somebody up into another car and another car and another car, and they get squeezed out of their aft and turned around. So I think if you knew you were shoving a guy into the back of another car, you'd lift and let off. Your spotter's giving you that information. You certainly don't want to drive him into the car in front of him and create a problem. So I think I think that there's certainly a better way, right? I'm not in charge. Don't take my, I'm not trying to, make a big complaint here, but this isn't the best we can do.
D. Kalen says that when you ran restrictor plate races, you took every run possible. Nowadays, with the current package, there's always a run. Would you still race with that mentality?
Yeah, I think that if you're always on the offense, I think when you get on the defense, if you're protecting, that's when you crash. That's when you get crashed. That's when you put yourself in position to be wrecked. I always felt like that if I was trying to move forward, trying to go forward, always trying to make something happen, then I got wrecked less. And I found myself if I felt like I always knew what to do and I'm gonna go about this in a very methodical way, and I'm gonna always be going, I felt safer. I felt like I was in control of the race, my race, right? And it sometimes it's circumstances, you're getting crashes that you have no way of missing, no way of avoiding. But if I was in defense mode, that's never fun, and it typically ended up with me being upside down or crashed. I didn't flip that often, actually, but it typically meant that we were going to end up in the mess.
Our next question coming from a fairly new NASCAR fan, Peter Kinzel. He says, NFL coaches look at a ton of film, the same for quarterbacks. How much film of races do crew chiefs and drivers watch?
Crew chiefs have been watching every race. Crew chiefs are watching races as we speak in their offices up on the TV. They'll have those races from last year or earlier this year always playing and listening to sort of to remind themselves a bit about what each crew chief chose for strategy, what 2 tires, 4 tires, what positions they put themselves in for the end of the race as far as taking fuel and things like that. So the crew chiefs have been doing that for years, even back, when I was driving, I'd go into the office at Latart's or Greg's, and there'd be a race, last year's race, playing on the TV. They might play it, loop it, let it run and run and run, and they watch that same race several times during the week in case they miss something. So I think it's and I noticed then what a refresher that was, right? I'd never watched races, and I'd go into the weekend and just be like, look, man, this is a weekend. It's going to play out the way it plays out. But then I started seeing my crew chiefs watch races, and I thought, man, at least you remind yourself of what to look for. You remind yourself of how the tire behaved, what kind of grip it had, and how many laps it had that grip. If you got a track where you move around a lot, you run the high line or go to the fence. When do you go to the fence? Is it lap 10? Is it lap 20? When do you start making time up there? When did those guys start doing that in the race, the time we raced here before? Did they go to the top after lap 4? Or was it lap 20, or did it happen in the last 10 laps of the run? So, because you want to be making time all the time. You want to be as fast as you possibly can be. So if you could be making time at the top, you want to get up there and do it, but you don't want to go too soon. You remember those things by looking at that film. I think drivers now watch the same, do the same thing the crew chiefs have been doing as far as just watching those races over again, especially if you can get a hold of in-car footage for a driver. That's really helpful to see how the car's handling and how the car drives, even if it's not your in-car footage. I always like to watch the in-car stuff.
Chris Smith brought up Josh Berry's win this past weekend in the Cars Tour. Did you see the battle between him and McCaskill?
I did. And Deke and Josh have always had a very good relationship. If I'm Deke, I still think I'd take Josh and run him a little bit harder for that $30,000. But Deke's a pretty straight up professional, and so the way he raced him, I was not surprised. Josh said he didn't have the best car, but was able to go out there and get it done. Josh ran on Saturday in the Xfinity at Dega, and then went to Orange County on Sunday and qualified and raced and won the $30,000 win Cars Tour race. He won that same $30,000 Cars Tour race at Greenville Pickens last year, so this is 2 years in a row he's gotten that check. And Josh is not making Xfinity money, not even making truck money. He's a short tracker. He's working week to week, paycheck to paycheck. Those race winnings, I say this because a guy said, heck with the money, the trophies forever. Well, no, the money's pretty important to Josh. That's a big, big bonus for him and his family. He's got a little girl now that he's trying to provide for. So I was pretty pumped for him to be able to get such a big payday.
All right, guys, that's it for today.
All right. Great questions. You guys always come through. It's interesting. A lot of your questions were some of the potential topics for our open segments. So that's just how on it you guys are. Thanks for that. This is a great part of the show that I really enjoy. We get to interact with people that support our show in the moment, and I think that's pretty special. So I hope you guys have a great week, and tune in. Oh, also, before I let y'all go, the Dale Jr. Download 6:30 on Thursday. 6:30 on Thursday this week. So mark your calendars. We'll see you.